you guys really need to maybe study more about the basic Christian philosophy before you even start trying to even debate this, because it's kind of embarrassing, honestly.
Well, hello. Welcome, hello. Hello. Yes, yes, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Yes, yes. No, 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 no.
Yes. From the Christian view, there is no just solely your thoughts. Some thoughts are external from you. So, for example, demons can implant temptations and thoughts into you.
Not
right?
control.
So
Somebody put demons on this panel.
That's for sure.
Noah came in with a big 10 to say $10 for saying emergent property.
Yeah, totally. Every time.
Check your bingo cards.
Emergent property.
Anson coming in with a big 5. Why did Tag watch Two Girls, One Cup to prove God exists? Because only divine precondition can make sense on that level of chaos without breaking logic. What is Tag again?
Transcendental argument for God.
Okay, thank you.
Anson's drunk at this point.
He's totally faced.
ALC with a big 5. Because the deceptive slow state can't explain Tag. Can Wi-Fi gospel explain Tag, please?
Sure, really quickly. The way I do it is through epistemology, but basically, the Christian world, if knowledge is possible, the Christian worldview is true. Knowledge is possible, therefore the Christian worldview is true. That's the direct way to go about it. It's basically.
Can you connect those a little
This
bit
is a
more?
long conversation.
Okay,
I would love
we
actually,
can keep doing super chats.
I would love to do a debate with you, Flow State, on that if you want to.
You're gonna put yourself through that. You're gonna put yourself through that.
Every time I try to debate Jim Bob, he has to go somewhere.
You've already been wrecked so many times, Flow State. By me, by Jim Bob.
I will set it
every
up.
Orthodox you've ever.
Whose voice is that? Oh, that must be Weirdo John.
Oh yeah.
John,
You know, you already know. I've already destroyed you several times. So
you have never
Jim Bob.
destroyed
Yeah, that's such a lie, dude.
You just sit around with your dick in your hand. Going,
Like, literally
You
what
give up
every-
every time. After like
Are you
30, after an hour, you give up.
Support because you know that what you're saying is bullshit.
I
Shout out, AL.
destroyed her. I
In the end.
destroyed her, guys. I destroyed you.
Okay.
I just raped John. See, it's true. I said it.
Wrong
Okay.
says, silence, play a song, everyone take a drink, engage in 1 minute, also good night. And for that, I'm gonna do the stupid shit. Thank you, because I destroyed her.
And Bill Hicks, absolutely, I kick Weirdo John because he's full of shit and a bad faith arguer. Tell someone just come on your panel and go,
okay.
I won. There's no
Okay,
reason
all right, Flo.
Atheists haven't been able to win an argument since the Fedora meme came out, and they lost all.
This is exactly the same thing.
Attendance is down.
It really is the worst.
The Cold Quest coming in with a 5 says God's the obvious answer to life's logic, but I'm too proud to admit it. Even if it's clear as day, I'll just pretend he's not real.
It's a performative
It's
contradiction.
not clear as day.
Well, it's pretty obvious.
It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple, is what you mean to say.
Oh, it's obvious.
It's very simple, rudimentary thinking to go, oh, I wonder what my Sky Daddy did. Sky Daddy did it.
No, it's obvious that you're really doing the Sky Daddy meme. You're fucking
Sky Daddy.
2001.
Sky Daddy's here.
2001, 9/11.
I don't know how anything happened, so Sky Daddy.
Well, no knowledge.
Sky Daddy.
Look, it's Flow State. Can you
What,
please,
Tim
from
Bob?
your broken materialistic worldview, tell me?
I'm not a materialist.
Then how do you account for immaterial things without God, please?
I don't claim to account for everything. I don't know. There are things that we don't know. There are things you don't know.
It's your worldview is
You
absurd,
are the ones that make
So
up
why
the
are you
lie that you
debating?
know things.
Why are you debating?
Yes, why are you debating?
debating
Your
then?
worldview is absurd. It's reduced to
Why
absurdity.
would
There's
you
no
be-
reason
Sky
for
Daddy.
you to adopt it.
Sky Daddy.
No, the argument is closer to this. Knowledge is discoverable, and knowledge is mind dependent. So if knowledge precedes you,
And so
such
where
that you
did
can
minds
discover
come
it,
from? I don't know. Sky Daddy
Ah,
made it, and Sky Daddy is the mind.
it assumes that a mind holds all knowledge. That's what it assumes.
Right, Sky Daddy.
Yeah,
I don't
fine.
know. I don't know.
It's
I don't
better.
know.
Dude,
I don't know
Sky
how
Daddy-
something happened.
Better,
I
Dusty.
can't explain it, so Daddy did it.
Yeah, hey, listen,
this is the logic.
isn't that
background.
still a better explanation than your non-existent one?
No, because you know what? When people think they know everything, they quit learning.
I
They
didn't
quit
ask.
looking.
I didn't ask your Yelp review. I said, as far as explanations go, is one that follows the line of reasoning that says knowledge is mind dependent and we're discovering it, so maybe it comes from a mind. Okay, it's not a huge controversial state. Isn't that a better theory than your non-existent one?
You didn't ask if it was a theory. You said it was a better claim.
Isn't it a better
It's
proposition?
the worst one because it's a lie. You don't actually
you
know the
don't
answer.
How could you know that's a lie then? Under your own epistemology, that you don't know everything.
Do
How'd
you know
that's a
everything?
lie?
Do
No,
you know
how'd
everything?
You said it was a lie.
I
Now
would
tell
know
me.
it because you already said
Tell
that
me.
you don't know everything.
Tell me how you know something is a lie then.
Well, I took you at face value because you said you don't know everything. You acknowledge that it can
How
exist.
does not knowing everything mean I'm lying?
Do you know how the universe was created?
No, I asked you, does it follow that if someone doesn't know everything that they're lying if they say something?
Because you are a human, as am I. And so you
does
don't
it
know
follow,
everything.
Does it follow if someone doesn't know everything, if they say something, it's a lie? I'm still not getting an answer to this from you.
No, and that's not what I'm claiming either. I'm
Oh,
claiming
you
that
did say
you're
that.
lying because you're claiming to know things you can't possibly know. You're a finite being. You haven't lived all throughout the beginning of time.
I didn't say I know it. I said, is it a better explanation
Does God
than the
exist?
non-existent one?
No, it's a worse explanation because you're claiming to know things you cannot
No.
possibly know. You weren't here when the universe was created.
I know.
You
no,
weren't
I
here
know.
before man was.
No, I know. I know. I
Okay.
know because of the impossibility of the contrary. For instance, is truth absolute, flow state?
Truth is it's not absolute in anything. It's a claim.
That
it's
is a
property.
contradiction.
It's a property of a
That's
claim.
Okay, cool. That's a contradiction.
Something
Do you care
can be
about
true, something can be false.
Do you care about contradictions? Because if I just said, is truth absolute? And you said, no, it's not. And you made an absolute claim about truth, which is a contradiction. Can we know that truth is absolute, being that if you say otherwise, you're
This
making
doesn't need to go that deep. We can just go.
Oh,
We
I
can just,
see. Oh, you don't want to go this
No,
deep.
you're obscuring your filibustering with
Get out of here.
tangential
Get out of
shit.
here. Yank 'em.
Are you claiming?
Yank 'em.
Are you claiming to know
Oh.
things it is impossible for you to know?
No, I just claimed
Yes, you
one
are.
thing. I just claimed one thing that's possible
How-
to know. That's
okay.
absolute.
How do you know about the creation of the universe?
I just gave you. Hold on. Don't move.
No,
I-
I'm not. You're moving. How
Hey,
do you
did I
know?
just- did I
How do
just-
you know what created the universe?
Powder Dusty. Let me just ask you a simple
no,
question.
No, you're moving.
Did I
now.
just give
You're
you
moving
an
now.
example?
This is
of
how you win
something
debates.
absolute?
You
Did-
ask all the
I did
questions.
win.
You
Thank
don't
you for
answer
telling me.
questions. How do you know God created the universe? You don't know, but
Revelation. No, revelation. Because it's
Revelation.
It's a necessary.
Another man told
condition.
you.
No, hold on. You're not letting me answer, dude. If it's the case that I've already debunked you on absoluteness, we can know things that are absolutely true. So,
I didn't
Powder
say that
Dusty.
we couldn't. No, you're
you said-
you're
you just-
debunking a
oh,
straw
you're
man
just
right
lying.
now.
You didn't say that we
You're
can't know anything
debunking
absolutely.
a straw man.
You said we can't know anything absolutely.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did. What did you say then?
Well, I was responding to your homie, the other Christian guy.
Oh, so you didn't
Whoa,
say
whoa,
that. Yes or no? Did
He-
you say that?
He
Can
said
we
that.
know
I was
anything? Can we
It
know
wasn't my
anything?
claim. I interacted within that premise.
Can we?
I interacted in
Can
that
we
premise.
know
It wasn't
anything
a claim.
absolutely?
I don't think that there's anything that cannot be proven false, except for maybe things that are definitionally true.
What about that as a truth statement?
That would be the law of identity.
So can that be proven false?
It probably could.
Okay, so then can that be proven false? That it probably could. Ruh-roh.
Where's this going? Maybe, I don't know.
It's going into insanity where you
It is
started.
going into insanity,
You
and
started
that
there.
is the religious worldview. You have to gaslight and make people fucking
No,
insane in
you are
order to get
insane.
them to believe that
No.
that believing
Well,
in God
Well,
is
if it
rational.
works, if
It's
it
not
works.
rational to believe in
no.
God.
It's not. Tell me what's rational.
God is a cop out of having to answer the
How's it
question
not
that it
rational?
begins to answer.
How's it not rational? That's a claim. Can you know that absolutely? Because that sounds like an
See,
absolute claim.
see, you're doing it again.
No,
You're doing
no,
it again.
you made
You're
the
proving
claim
me
it's
right.
rational.
Keep
Tell me
proving
how
me
it's
right.
not rational.
Keep proving me right.
Tell me how it's not rational. You made the claim, dude.
It's not rational because it bypasses actually have to follow the logical investigation that you set out to do in the first place. Like
That requires God. Logical, rational
As it-
explanation.
no, logic doesn't require
The thing
God.
that-
That's a claim.
Yeah, it does.
That's a claim, but it's not proven.
So, okay.
So how does God not have to comport with the law of identity?
What do you mean he does comport with the law of identity?
So it predated him. It pre-existed him.
No, that doesn't follow. You don't know how
it does absolutely follow. See,
this make an argument then.
This is why it's not rational. This is why it's not rational.
Follows, you can make an argument.
God is a cop out from having to explain things.
If it follows, then you could make an argument showing that it follows, but you can't because you don't even know what a fucking argument is.
It does follow because you don't. If there's no law of identity, if the law of identity doesn't exist, then how can you have a distinct God?
Argument.
The law.
Premise one.
God exists. If God exists,
God exists.
If God exists,
yeah,
that's a distinct thing, right?
Yeah, God exists. Therefore, what?
Okay,
he's
in order to identify God as a thing, the law of identity has to exist.
No, if God is literally ontologically is the source of the law of identity, ontologically speaking, that's
and
the
I'm
claim.
saying that you have to have the law of identity to even recognize God or identify God.
No, we're not talking about us recognizing. We're talking about God's nature existing eternally uncreated. If a God is eternally uncreated, Powder Dusty, would you need something before eternally uncreated? Because that wouldn't make any sense.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It does not make any sense. That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
No. Look, if logic and God are eternally uncreated, hold on. If logic and God are eternally uncreated, what's the problem?
So that right there, that claim is the problem. It bypasses the obvious law of identity requirement.
No, it solves the problem.
Nothing can exist.
The problem is it solves the problem.
It's going, no, I don't have to do that.
No.
Everything, the law of identity has to exist. The law of identity has to exist for everything except for God.
No, it doesn't. No, that's not what happened here. What happened is actually assumed that the law of identity must be a separate platonic thing that's floating
All I know is Sky Daddy told somebody that I never met.
No, dude. All I demonstrated to you is that if it were the case, which is our view, that God is eternally uncreated and logic is a part of him, like that means all of this is eternally uncreated.
Look, this is a cigarette. I just made truth. I just made God. With that claim, this is a cigarette.
That's a lower tier of knowledge.
You're a lower tier.
You shouldn't have a license
to
drive.
God is just special. He doesn't have.
I shouldn't have a license. Jim Bob, what the fuck?
I don't want you driving.
How are you going to do me like that?
I don't want you driving.
Together, you want to take away my driver's license?
I don't want you driving. I don't want you voting. I don't want you voting or driving.
Fucking dick.
Dusty.
I'm not talking to anybody until Jim Bob gives me my license back.
Look, deal with it. God's eternally uncreated and logic is a part of him, dude. Deal with it. Don't you want logic? By the way, but don't you want?
Prove my whole point.
Don't you want logic to be unmoved?
I want my license back.
Yeah, you do. Don't you want logic to be invariant and universal and not changing so that you could actually argue for truth and make propositions? How are you going to get that from nature, bro? If nature's always changing, it's over. You guys are failures. You guys should just quit life.
Exact argument I made earlier.
What? You didn't make any argument. Evgie, you don't even know how to make an argument with premises.
If logic was not a part of God, would he still be God?
If God was a carrot, would a carrot be almighty?
But God be a God without logic.
If a one wasn't a one, would it also be?
You don't want to answer the
premise. It's an absurd premise.
This is why my Sky Daddy said to murk all you people because
it's not part of our view.
It doesn't. It violates the. It's not an internal critique. It violates.
It's just a very simple question.
No, dude, no, it's simple. It's like it's vegan gains asking me. Well, if people were also carrots, would you still not eat a carrot? It's like
it's exactly like that. It's exactly.
It doesn't follow. It doesn't challenge our.
I don't want to be a downer, but you guys do know what tomorrow is.
What's tomorrow?
Anniversary of the Death Star.
The Death Star?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. It's been a year already. Yeah. Man, it's such a huge thing. All it took was a couple X-Wings to take it down.
Yeah.
Hey, I got the hat. I got the hat. God told me some things. Listen to me now.
All you're saying, Snake, is if you abandon your view and the view that you hold, is your view still true if you abandon it? That's not an internal critique, dude.
Yeah, you have to internally.
God told me Jim Bob's being a heretic. He's thinking.
Let's Snake talk.
Make him stop thinking about things, please.
I'd like to respond.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. It's like asking if a person was a carrot, it wouldn't be a person anymore. If X doesn't have its necessary components, then it's not X anymore. So if God doesn't have a necessary component, which is
in our
logic,
view.
then it's not God.
That's not possible in our view, though.
So Right, I agree. So,
Yeah, so why are you
logic is
asking-
a necessary component of God.
Yeah,
Right? Right.
It's necessary.
So God is dependent on that component.
No.
Yes.
From our view.
No.
That's how logic works.
I just checked with God. He said yes, he is dependent.
No, that's not. That doesn't
No,
follow.
no,
It was revealed to
Hold on,
me.
shut up, dude. The meme sucks. So look, Snake. If it's the
It was
case that
revealed.
logic and God are intertwined in their very nature, you're asking yourself,
Intertwined.
basically granting yourself that logic's not intertwined and you can separate it. So for you to do the hypothetical, you need to actually do something against our view and pretend it's internal, but it's really not. It's a little snake move. So you have the appropriate name.
Oh my God, Jim Bob, move your head right, like.
Oh, sorry.
It no, go back that way. It looks like the guitar, the white part of the guitar, was giving you a devil horn as you were
I
sitting
thought
there.
you were going to
It's
make him do
beautiful.
nasty things to me.
So you
I
understand,
can do that
Snake?
too.
You can't ask us to divorce the part of God's nature under our view, because then you're no longer internally critiquing our view. You're basically saying, well, can't logic just exist separate from God, which is question begging?
I didn't ask that.
Yeah, you are. You're assuming it.
No,
Yeah, you are.
all I did was establish that logic is a necessary part of God. And this is a quote from you, logic is a part of God.
Yeah, and?
All I did was establish that it was a necessary part.
And then how do you argue against it?
I don't. I'm agreeing with that.
So what's your argument
it's
then?
just a bad implication for your
We're
side.
saying
because-
all transcendentals flow from God. We're not just saying
Evil?
one.
Does
All.
evil flow from God?
No,
No.
evil's
No.
a privation.
That's like saying, does darkness flow from the light that's in your room?
It's just a
Or-
contradiction.
What's a contradiction?
The contradiction.
You don't think
What's P
evil
and
is
not
its own
P?
thing?
What's P and not P?
Evil is its own thing, I would
Shut
think.
up, flow
The
state.
contradiction is you
No.
saying that logic is a part of God.
It wasn't
and
revealed to
also
you, it was revealed to me.
That logic comes from God.
Anson Knowles comes in with the big 5 and says the laws and patterns we observe, like casuality or mathematical truths, aren't separate from the universe, but expressions of its inherent nature.
Oh, Anson's just the worst.
It implies a person.
Yeah, it's Snake.
It
I have a question
implies a
for you.
person.
Can you
does.
separate the rays of the sun from the sun?
Yeah.
How?
Why are we
the
smug?
photon, the
These
photon
guys are
comes
going
off
into
the
comic
blue
book
matter.
land.
Effigy, you have no arguments. You have a decent voice, but it's totally wasted.
The photons
my
are
apologies
not
to
part
you.
of the sun.
Okay, so but the thing is,
They came
there's
from
the
the sun.
sun, and then there's the action of the sun, right? The burning of the sun and everything it emits is a part of the sun, right?
Not anymore.
You're
Not
asking-
once
you're-
it leaves what we
No.
define as the sun.
Well, now you're asking whether or not something like the sun, which emanates something from the sun, you're saying once it emanates, then the sun is dependent on what it emanates now. But that's not true even for the sun. So why would it be true for God?
So are you still a part of your dad's balls?
What? No, that's not the argument, dude. That's not the argument. That's your argument. That's what's so funny is that's your
No,
your
I'm saying
argument.
that they're separate.
No,
Um,
that's totally separate things,
May I
right?
have a moment to
You
read the
left
word of the Lord?
ball.
No, dude, the sun itself and what it
I
produces.
form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil.
The sun is necessary
Yeah.
for the solar ray.
Nice
I'll
Isaiah,
interpretation, bro.
Isaiah
Bad
45:7.
is the solar rays the solar rays are dependent on the sun?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so if the solar rays leave, does it follow that the sun wouldn't exist just because there's other access points to the sun's rays?
No, it follows that the rays wouldn't exist if there was no sun.
Okay, so we agree the sun being God and the rays being logic, they're basically bound together, and the separation of them doesn't say anything about one being without the other or one being dependent on the other.
I'm saying the sun is the logic.
No, you just reversed the whole
God could not exist without logic. It wouldn't be
No,
God according to
that
your
doesn't follow in our view, dude.
So you're just making logic God at that point.
Yeah, that's all you're doing, dude. Logic is
No.
God, a mindless thing that's a platonic set of envelopes floating in space that God then comes forth from. That's, dude, you're just, what kind of substances you're on? I just don't understand what you're thinking.
This-
Does logic
this is some of
You
the-
got substances in
reality in your
your
view?
Come on.
Unbelievable.
The thing is,
Does
the
logic-
best atheist philosophers would be laughing at you guys.
Totally.
Hume,
Well,
That's why you're
Turquoise
not a lot.
coming in with the big 5. Why are atheists so smug? Get some tea, guys. Without lies, Islam dies. Comes in with
That
a
was
big
fairly
5.
smug comment.
Discuss. Jesus Christ isn't just a man. He is the Word of God. He created the world and was sent into flesh as the Jewish Messiah, Jesus Christ.
Discuss.
So you worship a Jew, is what you're saying.
And words. They worship words too.
A Jew is the humanity, the what? But he's fully God. So, and also Jews today, everyone, like that goblin that came on, he's obviously a Talmudic pervert Jew. Those are not the Jews of Christ's time. Those are these latter remnants.
They've deteriorated.
Well,
no, just like the rabbinic Judaism is not the same thing as Judaism of the Old Testament.
Right.
And the Jewish diaspora kind of gets some certain things compared to like the ancient Jews in terms of genetic stock.
I mean, what this argument comes down to is you guys keep on trying to appeal to things that aren't our view. You keep on trying to say, hey, this is a logical contradiction, but it's like, well, that's not. You guys really need to maybe study more about the basic Christian philosophy before you even start trying to even debate this, because it's kind of embarrassing, honestly.
Absolutely. I studied the Bible in school, and I had to pass tests on it, and took theology classes. I think I'm
yeah.
Okay, so can you tell us
we understand what you're saying? We understand what you're saying. That's the same excuse every Marxist makes. Everybody who has a stupid ideology. No, you just don't get it. We get it.
No. With Marxism, it's very precise, isn't it? Wouldn't you agree that from your perception that there's a multiplicity of things that, from your view, were called Christian approaching you? And we're telling you that we don't even agree with those things. So if you're gonna specifically attack Christianity, in this case Orthodoxy, you're gonna have to actually isolate what.
I don't think anyone's specifically attacking Christianity or Orthodoxy.
You're gonna have to get into all of it. You're gonna have to get into Christology. You're gonna get into soteriology. You're gonna
the attack is not
energy
specific.
distinction.
You're gonna have to get into all
your
of
belief is that specific. The attack is broader.
You don't have any attack, dude. You got a dumb hat on. That's all you have.
The attack was
that's all. That's all. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you.
You have no wisdom. You have no logic or wisdom.
The attack was assuming that the component.
I don't need those things. It was revealed to me.
It's a wasted, funny hat, dude.
It was revealed to me. I don't need those things.
All you have is a revelation that you can't tell is a delusion or an illusion.
Right. But the argument you just used was using the components as external reliance parts, right?
Yes.
Like that's no Christian's position.
No.
What does that mean?
Explain. It doesn't matter if
you're assuming
believe
the
in the
parts of
contradiction
God
or not.
are
It's
similar
there.
to the physical parts that
Yes.
you would
Of
think
course,
about.
you don't believe your God is contradictory, but the premises of your God are contradictory.
No, only if you assume part means physical part.
You have to adopt our view.
I don't
and
assume it's
show
a
the
physical
I have to learn the view,
not
Snake.
physical
Dude, Snake, why don't you understand? Why don't you ask to learn what the view is as far as the nature, the nature essence, the essence energy distinction?
I'm more curious to know.
Why are you just pretending you know what the view is? We're correct.
Well, because Andy is pretending to know what our view is, so I'd like him to explain that more.
No. What I'm saying is the argument that whoever used the component part argument that logic is a component part of God. If you take out a component part of God,
well, it's a flawed part. Like I wouldn't say the word part.
So Andy thinks Jim Bob is wrong.
You did say part. You said
Jim Bob is using part in a different sense than whoever else was using that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
So clarify.
I just did clarify the part. When you take out a physical part, right, you have a physical component that you can set aside, and so that the whole is different than the part. But if you have something that's infinite, if you take out a part of it, you don't just have a lesser entity that's now finite. You still have an infinite entity. You can't take out parts of an infinite entity and then have something lesser.
It would create. It would mean.
So give me an example of how you could take out a part of God.
Multiplicity. It would create multiplicity in God, which we don't believe.
Take out a part of God is what I'm saying.
Okay, so then how does God have parts if they're not distinct?
They're conceptually distinct.
Yeah, because distinct things don't have to be separate. Distinct and separate are not the same.
No,
light and heat emanate from the same source.
Give me an example of something that's different and not distinct.
Sun. He just gave you one.
Light and heat emanate from the sun, but they're not distinct from the sun.
They are different and distinct components.
No, they're separate, but not.
Can you have heat without light?
They're not separate.
Can you have heat without?
What did you ask, dude? You asked us name something that's
I said, give me an example of a distinction without a difference.
That's not the argument.
Not the argument that was being made.
We didn't say that.
That's what Andy was saying. Andy was saying that you can go. What were you saying, Andy, about them being? You can't have a part.
I'm saying you can't have a physical part of God.
Can you have a conceptual part of God?
In your mind, you can distinguish, like, okay, let's say, like, you can distinguish tons of things conceptually, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can think of your intellect and will as conceptual entities. Doesn't mean you actually have those things in you that are intellect and will, right? Maybe.
So can I conceptually remove one conceptual part from the conceptual whole?
Yeah, you can conceptually think of God's power, for example, as different than his omniscience.
Can I remove that then, conceptually?
Yeah,
not in an internal sense.
From God.
You're thinking temporal. In an internal sense, no.
We are all temporal.
That's is within the mind.
Yes,
Conceptual is within the mind.
Right.
Yeah,
so conceptually, can you remove power from God?
God?
Let him answer the question.
Conceptually, you can think of power as something different in God than his like knowledge or something like that.
Okay. So there actually is no issue removing parts from God.
Conceptually, no. But if you actually, is
God physical?
No, his argument was for logic. You could remove logic from God.
Right.
If you do that conceptually, it doesn't matter. And God doesn't depend on logic if you remove it conceptually. You're just saying
you can have an illogical God, or
if you want to remove it conceptually, that has no bearing on reality.
Well, God isn't in reality, right? You
can't
touch God. You can't measure God.
God is in reality. You're assuming a physicalist worldview.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's not a reality, if it's not tangible. Is God tangible or intangible?
He's both tangible in the person of Jesus.
Okay,
Christ.
show me the tangible part.
Jesus
Christ was the tangible part.
Okay, well he's dead, so God's no longer tangible.
No,
why is that an argument against this though?
Yeah, you don't know where you're going, Powder. You're just flustered when you have a dumb hat on.
You keep saying you're not a materialist, but then you keep assuming materialist.
I know it's weird, right?
No.
It's like, I'm not a materialist.
You guys keep arguing the materialist world. You're saying God is not material. I'm saying, okay, he's a concept. Let's work with the concept. We can work with the concept.
I'm not saying he's a concept.
Not a concept.
I'm saying whoever gave that argument where if you separate logic from God, then he's dependent on God is confusing. What was that?
It was Snake who made that argument.
Snake, thank you. That's who it was.
Yeah,
he's confusing the conceptual idea of parts from the ontological idea of parts. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think you guys believe that logic is separable from God. The point is God need logic to be
in
God.
a temporal sense. There's a difference between the temporal and the eternal.
There is no difference. Part is the same for something that's conceptual or something that is physical. Just one's physical and one's conceptual.
Show me a conceptual part. I'll play the game.
I can't show you anything. That's what I can't show you a conceptual part. That's what I'm saying. But the function of part, the word part, it's the same thing. It's just applied differently.
Conceptual part qualifies the word part. Right?
A conceptual part of something. Look, you can break off. You can conceptualize an illogical God, right?
What was that? Say that again.
Do you think that concepts have parts?
Ontologically or conceptually? Like I could think of many different things conceptually divided.
Yeah, you can take a concept and break it down into sub-concepts that like build up the thing and buttress it. We don't know where you're trying. We don't know where you're trying to lead. I don't think you know how to structure an argument, but you're just like fucking.
You don't need to know where I'm trying to lead.
Spaghetti.
I'm just trying to get
just hoping we all start eating off the wall.
I'm not doing that. It was revealed to me. Okay, revelation. You think that with your own thoughts that you know things, but you don't know things.
Do you know that?
I'm just trying to give tools.
Yeah, God told me.
Cool. Which God? Who's the God? I'll grant it to you.
The God.
Who?
You don't know God?
Is he eternally uncreated and is he the source of all knowledge, logic, and truth?
Yeah, he's all the things. He's everything.
Cool. So just let's explore your theology. And
that'll be. Can you put $20 in the tray now?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. Here's what I want to ask you guys, the atheists especially. Why would you be invested? What's your investment in arguing against the Christianity in this case, or theology in general? What's the
same as your investment in arguing for it?
No, it's not the same.
Yeah, it is.
That doesn't answer my question, dude. I'll ask another guy.
Care about truth.
You care about truth, right? But under
people
your view,
value truth independent of God.
You care about determined mechanistic propositions from your brain matter.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely.
So why should we care about your brain?
I mean, you can
matter?
keep being reductionist about it, but
It is
yeah.
reductionist, though. Is it inaccurate
The
or
reason
not?
that we all care about it is because we all interact in the same society.
Hold on, stop it, dude.
And
effigy.
Okay.
Is the reduction unfair?
He always wants to quit when I start arguing. Go ahead. You take it, effigy.
Is the reduction unfair that you think that under your view it does actually reduce to determine phys from a brain?
No.
No. It's just the way you use it is ridiculous.
So is it ridiculous, like wrong, or you just don't like it, the consequences of it?
It's more.
I'm fine with the consequences.
Okay, what's the consequences of it?
It's much more meaningful than the reductionist you have on it.
Meaning,
chemicals have meaning. Chemicals have meaning. Can you show me where chemicals
meaning to me, meaning to us.
Where's the meaning in chemicals?
Who are you?
Oh,
Where's the you?
You're a what now, dude?
I find meaning in chemicals all the time, man.
No, that's a what then? Okay, Effigy, you understand that if you think you are one-to-one chemicals and all your evaluations and thoughts are chemicals, you're basically saying, well, because I care about it, right? Well, no, caring would also be chemicals. So your view is coming up to a debate panel right here.
Yeah, and that doesn't reduce any of the meaning that we put onto the things we believe.
There's no meaning.
No, it doesn't. It genuinely doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Why is there God doesn't provide any more meaning?
Yeah, in my view, why the fuck would I care about your view?
Right.
Seriously.
You're on the panel, though. You care enough to be on the panel, dummy.
Exactly.
But why would we care about God's view?
Why I wouldn't care about adopting your fucking view?
Yeah, why do you care? Why are you on the panel then?
My point is that ultimately we care. That's why we care.
Why are you on the panel? Why are you on this panel right now?
It might work on pig face or whatever you call them, but you're not gonna.
How many panels? Dude, there's panels about cooking. There's panels about like sewing.
I have a girlfriend.
You're on a panel right now specifically about the proposition of God existing, and you're debating it. And your view is that you're pure chemicals, and you're debating other chemicals.
That's not my
determined chemicals.
Determined.
That word determined.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's effigy.
Gentlemen, let me. Andy's going to go ahead and step back so we can let somebody else on the panel. If we can give Andy his final thoughts, please.
Yeah, thanks for letting me join in the conversation, guys. Very interesting stuff. I just want to repeat maybe one last argument. I want you guys to think about the semantic content and the exactness of the law of identity. And how could it be exact and unambiguous without a mind? So if you think about this argument quick, formal thought processes can possess an exact, unambiguous, and determinate conceptual content. Then premise 2, no material process can yield an exact or unambiguous conceptual content. Therefore, formal thought processes are not entirely material and require a mind for their exactness. So it's a simple argument. I think it's worth thinking about. But thanks for letting me. Thanks for the chat,
Andy.
Good talk.
Thank you, Andy.
See ya.
And current. Oops, damn it. Oh my God! Stop moving around, everybody.
Oh, great! Now 2 sophists.
And smoking auditor. There you go.
Uh-oh.
All right, and let me read it because we're so far behind on super chats. Let me get through a couple of them, please. Anson comes in again with another 5 and says, truth is absolute because it's rooted in the consistent, self-evident nature of the universe, not a contrived divine precondition.
That's retarded because you need to interpret the universe. And so the interpretation of the universe is not found in the matter that you're observing, dummy. Get out of here.
Saying self-evident isn't an argument.
Really mad at Anson.
I just don't like nonsense. This guy's
Anson
full of it.
I'm not mad at Anson.
He's not mad. Look at that. Yeah.
Can Anson have a driver's license?
No, definitely not.
Anson coming in with the big 10 says, Tag says God grounds logic, but what grounds God? This infinite regress exists.
It just hurts at this point.
This infinite regress exists unless something's uncaused. If the universe can be the foundation, God's not needed and Tag fails.
Yeah, God, that's not an internal critique. God's uncaused, he's eternally uncreated. So there's your solution. Stop flailing. Keep drinking, apparently.
Rachel with the big 5 says, flow state and people like him don't want God to be real because then they wouldn't be the boss. They don't want to obey their daddy.
Can you full screen me?
That's right.
Amen.
That's right.
Look at the hat. I am the boss, Rachel. I'm the boss. All right, that's all.
He knows.
But are you though?
He knows it.
Did you unfull screen me?
Saying you're the boss.
Are you the boss? Are you the boss? Who's the boss? Are you the boss?
Sarah's God, fine.
Dano with the big 5 says, granted that logic must exist to identify God, what accounts for this necessary eternal universal concept before all things existed?
So you're saying he's granting us that logic must exist to identify God?
For humans, you mean? For humans that we're given logic to know God, okay? What accounts for this necessary eternal universal concept before all things exist? Well, we would say God. I mean, we already just
That's the thing. We don't know.
There's no
So
before
to try to force place an answer like the universal egg,
we don't know why the universal constants are the way they are, why they chose those numbers, right? So
but you know they're there, and without them, there would be nothing.
Your worldview, it goes into absurdity if you follow it to its logical.
No, it just says I don't know when we don't know. Like it's just that simple.
No, he just told you that it follows into absurdity. You just don't want to follow it there.
How is it absurd to say we don't know what we don't know?
Well, that's
okay. Let's not try. Okay, all right. We'll say let's just not even try.
No. Let's go ahead. Go ahead. How is it absurd to say that I don't know something when I don't know it?
We didn't say that the statement
what he's
alone.
Saying your worldview.
Worldview falls into absurdity.
What is my worldview? That is absurd.
You don't even have a fully fledged out worldview to coherently defend it or present it to people. You're just like a wild retarded kid who gets to raise his hand a lot.
So yours is
raise your hand a lot in this class.
You have a better fleshed out worldview because you go my daddy?
No, nobody says my daddy, dude.
Sky Daddy, Heavenly Father, Sky Daddy.
That's
yes,
not
the fuck you do.
Not my worldview. That's not my worldview.
That's not your worldview. You don't believe in God?
No, that's not the same as saying Sky Daddy.
You're right. You don't use those words. But
you're too dumb. Do you know what a worldview is composed of?
Heavenly Father and Sky Daddy are the same thing.
Slow state. What's a worldview composed of?
It's composed of eggs mostly, some flour, some sugar.
Nonsense machine.
Yeah, nonsense machine. Sky Daddy. Look, I got the fucking hat. I got the revelations. I don't know why you're not accepting that.
Prime example of absurdity, by the way.
Exactly.
No, you are.
Exactly.
Joel, can you point to anything regarding that was absurd?
I'm parodying the church.
That's not a parody, though.
Recognize it's absurd.
It's not a parody, though. Nobody says what you're saying.
Joel, since it's not difficult for you, can you explain to me how you can understand the world if the law of identity were not true?
Divine revelation.
That assumes the law of identity. You're assuming divine revelation exists for it to be the thing.
No, because I rooted in God.
Why did you move away from behavior?
Did you not understand the question I asked him at all?
But you moved away from behavior.
Yeah, why'd you move away from behaviors, dude?
Because you're asking me what to justify why it behaves this way. I'm answering you. I'm answering you.
No, you didn't.
Do you want me to answer the question, or do you want to keep talking while I'm answering the question?
Dodging in the chat.
I'm trying to answer you. The issue is you talk whenever I try and answer.
Filibustering.
Go ahead.
Okay, so when you ask me, why do things behave this way? Can you justify why they behave this way? The justification is the incomprehensibility of the alternative.
No, I can comprehend something right now. That's
being
false.
Identical to themselves.
No, I didn't ask about identity, dude. Listen, Corinth. Look. Is it logically possible, Corinth, for all of the objects in the world to hold their identity and not behave at all? They don't move. They don't do anything.
For them to hold their identity is them behaving.
And they don't do anything. They don't
For them to hold their identity is them behaving, so no, it is not logically possible.
No, I didn't say behaving. I'm not saying being
themselves. What you just said.
Holy shit, you're such a sneak, dude. Look, dude.
I'm answering the question as asked.
Look, dude. I'm going to make it really clear so you can't sneak out of this.
Okay.
I'm not
Make it very clear.
Shut up. I'm not
Make it very
saying...
clear.
Oh my god, dude, you're
not saying very much. I'm asking you to say it.
He's just yelling again. Let me know
when
you're done.
You guys have to adopt tag to try to argue against tag. You literally just said the impossibility of the contrary.
Yes, I'm using a disjunctive alternative. I also have good arguments against tag if you want.
Cool, Corinth. Can you stick to my argument for a second? Look, dude.
Yes, I'm trying to. I'm asking you to ask a question. You're not making an argument. You're just asking questions.
Shut the fuck up. Do you see a difference between an object being itself and what an object does once it has its identity.
That is a distinction, but being itself is also a behavior of the
I
thing.
can prove it with an experiment.
Okay, hold on.
It's called the double slit experiment.
Okay, hold on. Corinth, if it's the case
Don't
that
hold
there's
on,
a
you gotta get in
distinction, if it's the case that there's a distinction between what something is and how it behaves, I'm asking you a question about the latter. How do you justify, which your view would be foundational? Is it foundational to your view that you're defending that objects behave in a certain way, not just that they are themselves, which you're saying is a behavior? I'm saying secondary to that behavior, that they relate, they have relational, logical relation and causal relations with each other. How do you justify the causal relations between the identities is what I'm asking.
Causal relations between the identities in what way? What examples do you have?
What way?
That
Go ahead, John.
I was just that is literally it. What they're he's asking you, how do you justify the relations between the particular objects after you already established that the identity is there? We established there's identity, okay? Now the behavior and the way they interact with each other, how do you justify that process in interaction?
How do you justify interaction?
Why? They're asking why things. Why do things do things?
Are you retarded, Corinth? You're just like pretending not to understand words now.
I'm fundamentally
He's not understanding because it's this dumb question. They're saying, how do you justify why things happen? Dude. No, you're obviously
you need to rescue him. You need to rescue him.
Let me. No, I'm rescuing you from your own inner critique.
Are you conflating an internal and external critique and implying teleology?
You can't answer the question, Corinth.
Because I don't understand the question.
Shut
I'm
up.
asking you a clarifying
Even
question.
Lord, everybody shut up. Even Lord, would you like to make your final statement before you exit the panel?
Sure. I think we're all kind of missing the point. We're all arguing about God, but is God a rational belief? I would say that concerning that most people kind of generally aren't really smart enough to think about this too deeply. It's better to just go and have the assumption that things were created from a God. It has a lot of substantial, philosophical weight, even if they don't know the reasons why. And it provides moral benefits, whereas atheism is only really good if people are intelligent enough to continue to act morally without it. But that's kind of my piece.
Thank you, Even Lord. We appreciate having you. You're always welcome back, okay?
Man, next time pipe that shit out faster.
Shut up. All right, everybody shut up. I'm going to read these real quick.
Oh, shit, Rocky's here. With an echo.
Rocky, you have an echo.
Echo.
Go fix your shit. All right.
I'm back.
Okay, so where was I? Anson says with the big 5, therefore the universe fulfills the role of the necessary precondition, God, for intelligibility.
Cool assertion.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Can you send Sarah more money, please, to explain it to me again?
Anson actually already said he was heading out, so Andy with the big 20 says for the Popat and Jim Bob and the Jim Bob win. Warren with the big 5, the atheist's argument boils down to insults. Got it.
That argument boiled down to an insult.
Snake says with the big 2, law of identity is the act of existence itself.
No, but we're not talking about the action of existing as being. We're saying the the relation between objects. One has a causal effect on the other. They follow some law, hot to cold, high pressure to low pressure, thermodynamics, collisions. All of these things are, from Corinth's view, would be just as foundational, right? He would call them foundational, yet they're just a bunch of unrelated particulars, right? So do they have a purpose in their behavior? Is there any purpose? Is it accidental? That's the kind of questions we're asking, and all we're getting is, I don't really understand the question.
Well, that's why they're foundational, right? It's because without the law of identity, you can't have the causal relationships in the universe.
I understand that it's a precondition. You have to have the law of identity to have the thing that follows. But we're asking Effigy, what justifies the thing that follows, which is a behavior towards something. It doesn't come from the object itself, right? It doesn't generate its own logical and causal relations with other things. It doesn't generate it out of it pure matter. So that's the question.
Not if it has constants that the universe is running by.
What?
Like, there's more than just the laws of logic, right? There are like numerous other constants. There are specific weights of neutrons. There are.
Yeah. What? Right. Yeah. How? Where's that? How do you justify those?
Why do I need to justify the
Why do you need to justify
properties of the universe?
Why do I need to justify God?
So there's no argument. That means it's
you.
literally saying I have no argument for what it is. Your argument is saying I don't need an argument. That's what you're saying. Your argument is saying I don't need an argument.
We can
Don't you see how
point to
stupid
the
that
laws
is?
of identity working. We can't point to a God working.
Rude mud crab coming with the 2 says a good girl is a good girl and not a good girl.
Yeah. By Snake, I don't know if you said that. Pointing to a hammer working doesn't justify how you got the hammer.
No.
John
justifies that
McDonald
it's
with
there.
the big 3
Listen.
says, honestly, Corinth, the stupid gay fox Sutu. And without
I like the
lies with
Crucible
big
caller the
5
most.
says, so what is tag? I'm confused.
Tag is an argument that argues that there are necessary preconditions for X, whatever it is. You can swap it. You could say knowledge, you could say truth. And the argument is that God is a necessary precondition for these XYZ transcendental items in the category, transcendental category. Why? Because they're mind, I demonstrated throughout the debate. These are mind associated things and they precede the human mind. So then the question is, what's the status of these mind dependent things in a system that doesn't have a human yet? Right. And I can't even get it out. All right. I can never get it out because they just fucking spurg every time I even say it.
Super calm. How do you know they precede?
Because if you came from a mother and a father, right?
Presumably.
You know that, or you're going to question that now just to get out of the trap?
What's the trap?
The trap is you had a necessary. Shut up.
Literally doing the Sky Daddy argument.
Dusty, did you have a past before you that preceded you that was necessary for you to exist?
Yes.
Cool. That's the argument.
Okay, so this is the fucking Sky Daddy argument.
No, it's not. That doesn't make any sense.
Yes, it is.
You don't know what you're saying.
Did you have parents? Yes, I had parents. Were they necessary for you to use this? Yes, they were. Okay.
Yeah.
So does the universe. It has a daddy.
Yeah, the past exists without humans, right? In a past that exists without humans, there's still conceptual, abstract universals that exist. Why? Because the matter abides by them, but they're not identical to them. So,
and yet somehow that means mind without a brain.
Spurg, everyone's Spurg.
Concepts might be a function of observation.
What? You don't even know what you're saying anymore.
You don't even understand it.
No, you don't know what you're saying. You're just saying words at this point.